Gonna hit the record.
I should probably turn that off.
Oh yeah, and make sure my. So let me know you're ready. It's kind of
All right, I'm
crazy,
ready.
dude. You're the first guest on this one. You're the first person I recorded for the first podcast. It's funny. It's all all intermixing. All right, cool. You ready?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, welcome to Hiatus, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier recap show. I'm so excited to kick this off and talk about this show. My name is David Jackson. I'm joined by my good friend, my brother, Anthony Cross. Anthony, thank you for stepping in and chatting with me. I'm excited to dig into this.
Come on.
This is our recap show, but before we dig into the episode, want to take a time to give like a brief intro to you, to the folks that are listening.
Yeah. My name is Anthony. I just love Marvel. I've loved it from the moment Iron Man came out. That was the first movie I ever actually bought for myself, and just seeing what they did and how far it's come, it blows me away. And so I just love the comics and just what they're doing. And so I'm just excited to be here.
Nice, nice. What's your favorite Marvel movie? Is it Iron Man? Or is it a different one?
Um, you know, I want to say Iron Man's probably my favorite movie, but he's not my favorite character anymore.
Mm.
And I got a big reason for that. Thor is my favorite character.
Oh,
Just
okay.
big reasons for that though.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I talked a little about in the intro. You know, my favorite movie is actually the Falcon and the Winter, not Falcon, the Winter Soldier, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. That's my favorite um, Marvel movie, and so I was really excited that for the show. And so yeah, awesome. So we're gonna do this is we're gonna first episode we're gonna recap the episode, the most recent one, the first one that came out yesterday, March 19th. And then we're going to give our insights and thoughts about it and just go from there. So, the first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is titled New World Order. Um, it's crazy how mysterious they had. Like, no one knew the title of the episode until like it dropped. It was pretty funny. But it kind of opens up with, you know, a little throwback to Endgame. We hear Captain America and Old Man Cap, his voice, you know, when he was asking Sam about the shield, how it felt, and Sam is ironing while he's thinking about it. So automatically, you know, you have that throwback to Endgame. Um, and then we shift to kind of like, at least for me, I thought it was kind of a out of the blue when we find out that he actually donates the shield to the Smithsonian or some type of museum. What was your thoughts when you saw that?
Yeah, that kind of blew me away. I kind of had a feeling that at some point he was gonna maybe give it up a little bit. I
Mm,
didn't think they'd do it so early on though. I thought he was gonna, try to do it for a while and maybe like, all right, I can't really
mhm,
do this. This new Captain America might be all right. I thought he was gonna like sponsor the new Captain America, like this might be a good idea. But it definitely took a different turn than I expected. I mean, there were some things that happened throughout the episode that really went in a different direction than I was expecting from the get-go. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they try to redeem that title now that it's been so broadly given to this new guy, you know.
right. Yeah, I was totally like that. I was kind of waiting for that first moment of like, oh, like something that went against expectation. I didn't expect it to happen that soon, but yeah, I totally thought that he, just like you said, will try it out for a little bit. So yeah, he donates his shield. We get a little cameo from War Machine Rhodey. That was pretty cool. He's sitting in the crowd, and then he's trying to, you know, kind of, it seems like he's trying to convince Sam to, like, you know, how come you're not, Captain America. And
Right.
we jump into, like, I guess like the first action sequence of, you know, him in action, um the Falcon in action. He's, he's trying to, I don't know, I'm blanking on the reason why, but he's trying to reclaim this soldier, right, that's been kidnapped from in this
Right.
yeah, so he's, and we see like a little cameo from Batroc, the dude from Winter Soldier,
Right.
George
That
St.
got me
Pierre.
excited. Yep.
Yeah, side note, I like him when he used to be an MMA fighter, so I used to follow him when he was fighting. But yeah, it's cool to see him fighting. But yeah, so he fights Falcon, goes in, and he realizes that the aircraft is already taken over by this group. So they start fighting, and it's a cool little scene with him flying around, and you know, we see Red Wing in action, which is kind
Right.
of
Back in
cool.
action.
Yeah.
Yeah, that all really set the bar. I think them showing that, hey, we can make a scene here that looks like something you're gonna see in the movie. I think that's really big
Mhm.
for them right now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I like it. I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, how's this gonna go? Because yeah, we had never seen, like in Winter Soldier, you saw him like flying, but like not to this extent, like the maneuvering and things like that. So that was kind of cool. So he gets this guy back, and then we start hearing about this group called the Flag Smashers. He's with his friend. I'm not sure what city they're in, but he's fixing Red Wing, and his friend talks about this group called the Flag Smashers, where this group that wants the world to go back to how it was during the blip, that 5 year span, which I thought was pretty cool. Them talking about, you know, the dynamics in that 5 years. But we hear about this group that wants world with no heroes, and how in a weird way the world became united, in those 5 years. What are your thoughts on that part?
Yeah, that really did blow my mind. I love how Marvel is starting to add more depth to a lot of these characters. They're not
Mm-hmm.
so bad anymore. The way they're going about what they want is really bad, but their ideologies it's like you can sit there and say, you know what? I might agree with them,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I could imagine, if the world did half of it just blipped away and all of a sudden, everyone's like, you know what we had sucked and we got to get together and do this right. And then all of a sudden it just gets thrown right back into chaos because you got all these people coming back. They're all different ages, new
Mm-hmm.
relationships have started. I think Spider-Man did it right, where they're like,
Mm-hmm.
this used to be my younger brother, now he's my older brother, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, man,
It'd
that
be
gotta
so
be
weird.
weird.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I think I could totally understand where they're coming from. Like, the world is now crap again. They just don't, help each other anymore. They can't even get alone. It's
Yeah.
just like right back to, let me do what I can do for myself.
Right. And that's something I'm gonna save for the end portion. But yeah, that's something that has been talked about a lot, about how not just Marvel, but a lot of these other studios can utilize these streaming and series by being able to like elaborate and do a little better storytelling than they could in the movies. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And so we kind of get to the Winter Soldier section of the show, and this was the part I was the most excited about, because man, again, the Winter Captain America, the Winter Soldier, like the scenes with the Winter Soldier were so intense and so like just action packed. And so I was excited for them to kind of go back. Like the music was similar, if not the same. Like when we see like a flashback to him killing this guy, and then killing this bystander that is revealed to be the son of one of the guys he's trying to befriend, or like make amends for. So we see he's having nightmares, and then he goes in to these therapy sessions where we find out that he actually has a book that he's, with all the names of people that he's either killed or helped elevate, to these different positions. He's making amends, and we see like the different ways that he goes about that. What were your thoughts on that section when we kind of see this backstory of what he's going through?
Yeah, I think they did a really good job of toning him down for a moment, really just showing like where his head is at.
Mm,
That's always big. They touched on it a lot in the movies, which again, he was always a bit of a back character, so we never got the full depth of him. But to see him really, even though he's got his mind back, still tripping out because of what he's done,
mm,
uh, I really feel bad for him, and I
yeah.
can't imagine just having this guilt and trying to correct a situation that wasn't even his fault. You know, he didn't
Mhm.
choose to be frozen and turn into a soldier and mind controlled. He didn't do all that.
Mhm.
But you know, it just shows how real it is. You know, and that's something I love too. Is they're kind of grounding it to a level where we can relate again. Like, how would you handle this situation? Like, how do I tell a guy like, hey, um, I killed your son.
Mm.
I didn't mean to, but I did.
Yeah,
That would
that's
be
so
so
intense.
tough, you know?
Yeah.
And so I could see how now why he built a friendship with him. He probably tried so many times, but just couldn't do it and ended up being his friend.
Mm.
But uh, yeah, man, I think it's going to be awesome to kind of see how they really help him just get through this period where he has to figure out how do I be different than what I was trained to be,
Yeah.
which
So
is
this
kind
is
of weird because he's never had. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
no, no. Yeah, no. Finish your thought. You good?
Well, basically, like, how do I change? Um, like he never had control before,
Mm.
and so now he does have control, and it's like, but it's been so short that it's like he just doesn't know what to do.
Mm. Yeah. This part actually like fixed two problems I had with like the Winter Soldier character Bucky Barnes. Like part of one of my issues was like he was so like fierce and like intimidating in the Winter Soldier, and when he became Bucky, I felt like I understood why, but like he became like not as like this is a dude that's supposedly on par with Captain America in terms of like strength and all this stuff, and I feel like his character kind of got watered down, and I understand like he wasn't brainwashed anymore, so a lot of that's gone. But also the second part, I felt that you know, we got to see Cap and like how he reconciled like him being, old and out of time and in the wrong place and not really being able to live his life. I appreciate that we're kind of getting to do the same thing with Bucky now, like kind of dealing with, like you just said, like how his brainwashed and like all those things like you can't do in a movie because he's not a main character, but like he in terms of him and Captain America, like they went through similar things and in different extremes. And so I'm glad like we get to dive into like his mindset. How does he deal with all those memories? There was a part in Civil War when Tony Stark is like, chokeholding him and he's saying, do you remember her name? Talking about his mom that he
Hmm.
killed, and he was like, I remember all of them. And so we see that
Right,
he remembers them. And then too, like I don't know if you saw this, like he, again drawing the parallels of Captain America, like he was drinking on the date with the he ends up going on a date with the bartender. He's drinking and like she's like, oh, you can really hold your liquor. And there's a callback to how like in the first Captain America movie, because of the super soldier serum, he couldn't get drunk. Like, so he was like, that's one
right,
of the, and so he's dealing with all this trauma and he can't even like, how folks medicate with alcohol. Like he can't even escape that way. And so
right.
it's just a layer to like mentally what he's going through. So I think this is, I mean, I think this kind of how WandaVision dealt with like trauma and loss and everything like that. I think this is probably how they're going to address like, mental challenges and what he's dealing with. So I liked how they're approaching it. So that was pretty cool. So we go from the therapy session, and I think now and for those listening, if we get some of these beats wrong, it's all good. When it's not a comprehensive, but we get into a little bit about more of the flag smashers, where uh, Sam's friend finds out where the flag smashers, this group of people that want the world to go back. They have this meetup, this
Right.
meetup.com event, and this robbery or something happens, and then we see all these people with masks to I imagine to confuse the police, and we see that these guys are like not just these vigilantes or extremists, they're like like super soldiers and like really
Right.
strong. And when they had that reveal, what went through your mind? I'm interested to know what you thought when you realized these guys now that they're like super strong and crazy.
Well, yeah, two things stood out to me. One, they are very organized.
Mm,
One, because they set this whole scene up. Nobody really knows what's going on, except that they need to put on a mask. And as
mm-hmm,
soon as they say run, everyone just books it.
Yeah.
but they're not really involved, so they don't know anything. And so no matter who the police get, the people can get away.
Mm.
The second thing is, yeah, they are very strong, which that part right there, I can say a lot. I don't know how much you want me to say yet, but
Yeah.
this for me ties in a lot for what the whole Baron Zemo thing is going to do
Right.
later on. Because if we recall, his big thing with the Civil War was that he did not like super soldiers.
Mm.
You know, Captain America, he was kind of okay, maybe, but the idea of there being more, he was like, no, we can't do that. More Winter Soldiers, can't do that.
Mm.
And so if what's going on is that all these people now are just getting super strong and they're just all around,
Mm.
I think what might happen is we're going to see Falcon and Winter Soldier kind of run into him at some point.
Mm.
But because they're both going to have this similar goal of trying to get rid of all these super soldiers, it might kind of tie into that alliance, which eventually will probably break toward the end too, because Baron Zemo's got his own way of how he wants to do it, and they're going to have their way of wanting to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really, I mean, just seeing how available that strength is now. It's not just like Captain America and Bucky anymore. There's
Hmm.
multiple people that are this strong, and it changes almost like the idea of what the Marvel universe even looks like. Because before
Hmm.
there was only so few people that were heroes, but now we're
Hmm.
gonna see not just superheroes, but actual super villains.
Yeah. No,
You
you.
know,
I'm
yeah,
interested to see how they explain that because you're right. Like in Captain America, the first Avenger, you come away thinking that only Cap is the only person that got the serum and the rest got destroyed. Then you realize, oh no, Winter Soldier, he got it, and then a small group of people got it, but they got killed by Zemo. And then now we see these other people. You're right. Like I'm wondering how they're gonna explain that because I always thought like that it was a limited thing. Like it wasn't something that anybody could like replicate or people tried to, but they couldn't do it. And so
right.
yeah, you have this
Red
group is
Skull.
it reminds me of like this, this terrorist flash mob that happens. So the getaway, they we still don't know a lot about the group, but we get insight into Sam, and he's meets up with his sister, and they're trying to save their house and their business. And this brought up something I've seen on Twitter. We come to realize that Sam doesn't have a lot of money. His sister's
Right.
trying to get a loan, and he can't even be, even he's the Falcon. He can't even like get a bank loan. And in my head, I'm like, well, I knew Sam was gone for the 5 years, but I'm like, man, you would think like he helped save the world. Like he can't get
Right.
any side money, and he had said he had government contracts, but I'm like, how is he that broke? And I guess they could try to explain it in terms of like he's had no income for the last 5 years, and so, but I'm like, that part didn't like connect with me. But in my mind, and I saw it on Twitter, they're like, oh, Tony Stark left these guys broke from the
Right.
Avengers because Tony was bankrolling the Avengers. But uh yeah, what do you think of that this section with Sam and kind of the revelations of him not having any
Yeah.
money?
I mean, that part really blew my mind. I mean, I know they even touched on in the episode. The guy did ask, like, is Tony paying you guys? He
Mm.
was trying to find some income. Like, do you have any money coming in at all?
Yeah.
Uh, and now it's just gone. Obviously, Tony died,
Hmm.
and it's like, what did they do? Like, did Tony really just take care of him the whole time, and they just had
Mm.
like blank checks or something, a card
Right.
that he provided. And so it's kind of a funny thing I never thought about before. Like, how did they get paid? That never crossed my mind
Yeah.
before. Like, where are they getting their money from? I mean, we all kind of knew Tony was rich, and that was it.
Right.
And then I think, obviously this isn't going to be a route, but it was going to be, next to Black Panther to be the next bankroller.
Mm.
Um, and so that hasn't, come up yet. But the idea that even with government contracts, I mean, you would think a guy who's able to do what he does would get a pretty big chunk of money,
Mhm.
especially for saving a guy, before getting taken into some other country and possibly, tortured and interrogated or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but in my mind, I'm thinking like if you're a superhero, you got to be making $1 million a day. Like that's what I
Something.
imagine, right? But to think that he can't pay for a small boat in a small building, I, I just, yeah, I think that it's going to raise a lot of questions for a lot of people throughout the internet. Like,
Mm,
what is the income of every superhero that I've never seen? Someone's probably going to make a YouTube video. They
right.
make YouTube videos about who's the strongest, who's the
Right.
smartest, who could do this or that. But like, how much money does a superhero make? That would be an
Mm,
interesting video.
yeah. If anybody's listening knows any links to that, please share it. Yeah, for sure. I'll be curious to know that too. So yeah, so that stuck out to me. So now we come to kind of like the climax of the episode that man got me like fired up. So we see a newscast of the announcement. They're announcing the new Captain America, and so the one thing that I don't know if they intended to do this, but it looks like from the back, if we see this guy in the Captain America suit from the back, it looks like Captain. Like I thought, oh man, like I knew it wasn't going to be Captain America, but like it looked like Captain America from the back, and then we see the front, and it's not. They say it's a new Captain America, but the style of the suit looks like U.S. agent. For those that read the comic books, there's the government replaces Cap with this person called U.S. agent, same similar suit, but just different design, similar to what we saw. And so we see this guy who's there's a lot of memes out about him in terms of how he looks, but we see like this guy is a new Captain America, and we see Sam like watching the show, like watching the newscast, and we see him like ticked off. And so the reveal is that this new cap, the world needs a new symbol, and we see this new cap. What did you think when you were watching this play out? What went through your mind?
That I just when it was happening, I was like, the crazy thing is, I can go back and say I do believe they prepared the Falcon and Winter Soldier the same way they did Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Showed a lot of stuff from the first episode, but we have no idea what's going to happen later. In
Mm-hmm.
all the commercials, I believe all the commercials showed a lot of what we saw in the very first episode without even realizing it. And now that we see that it's all happened so fast, the only thing I'm wondering now, what are they going to do for the next 9 episodes?
Mm-hmm.
Because with this guy, if he's revealed so soon, again, it changed my perspective of just how this whole thing's going to play out. I mean, he gave up the shield so soon. This guy's probably going to do some things that are just super shady.
Mm-hmm.
From what I understand in the comics, he's just as strong, just as quick, just as agile, just as witty, but
Mm-hmm.
he's just more brutal in how he deals with
Yeah.
situations. Even from the back, the first thing I noticed was the gun on his hip.
Oh yeah,
Captain
that's
America
right.
never carried a
Right.
gun.
No
So
guns.
seeing that gun there is just the whole image just changes. Like you just know like this is not like Captain America. This is just like almost a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they finally show his face, I was a little upset, because he just looked like a jerk. Like he just
It looked like the dude just wanted to fight. Like I was
right,
watching
he
it,
just
I was like getting mad with as Sam was getting mad. I was getting mad. I was like, oh, I'm so ticked right now. I don't even know why.
right. The part that killed me too was that the mask didn't even look like it fit his face. It looked like it was a little like loose. I was like, this just looks so bad.
Yeah.
And so it just, man, it blows my mind to think that this character exists now, and it's going to be interesting because I know Sam is he's he's a hero, but Marvel has done a great job of grounding the reality of how people are, and so he won't be able to fight this guy like hand-to-hand combat kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? Even Tony Stark, man, his Iron Man suit, he was taking a pretty strong beating when fighting Captain America, and he had
Mm-hmm.
to think and fight. Um, and so, it'll be an interesting fight to see the Winter Soldier and this new Cap get into a fight. I hope they do something like that,
Yeah.
and maybe get the shield back that way. But um, I'm just baffled at this point. I think they did a good job, just setting this up with this guy and just getting us I think a good upfront view of what we can expect, that he's gonna be a douchebag. I almost feel like
Yeah,
the way they shot it and everything, like
on
they want us
purpose.
to look at him like, oh, like we're gonna hate this guy.
Oh man, yeah. So side note, so unless they change it, I believe this run is only 6 episodes, but
Really?
they're all 45 minutes. So like WandaVision was like 9 episodes, and but most of them are like half an hour, and a couple of them were a little longer. I think
Right.
this one 6 episodes, but they're all going to be around 40 to 45 minutes.
Mm.
I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure that's what the lengths are. But yeah, you're right. Like, we know that he's gonna get the shield back somehow because in the some of the footage of the show we see him with the shield, but like how? And yeah, man, I'm I already don't like the dude, the Captain American, and I think that was the plan. I feel bad for the guy that plays him because he's gonna get a lot of hate, and it's not even his fault. It's just
Right. He's
bad
just playing the
casting.
character.
Yeah, so we close on that. It kind of ends on that cliffhanger, and that's the first episode. So we kind of talked about a little bit. What are some? We're going to move into the portion of likes and dislikes. What did you like about this first episode?
Well, the biggest thing that I liked is that it definitely stands out uh, from the get go, just like WandaVision. WandaVision did not hit us like a Marvel movie. It totally came out of left field, and you really didn't know what to expect.
Mm,
And so it drew you in that way. And then as it progressed, it just continued to blow your mind more and more. And I think with this one, it's the same thing. Just because we get a good glimpse of what they can do with the graphics and just how Sam operates uh,
mm-hmm,
as a character on his own, as a standalone character. He really can fight. He really can go out and do missions on his own. He was shown to be a sidekick, but he can definitely be a leader, and they show that from the beginning, and it makes sense why Captain America was willing to give that title over to him. Sam does have what it takes to be that leader. He's
mm-hmm.
willing to get in there and make things happen. uh, the other thing that stood out to me that I really liked was that Falcon and Winter Soldier aren't even together in the first episode.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
I wasn't expecting that. I thought they were going to be kind of hanging out, but it really shows that they went their separate ways, and that they're just kind of figuring out who they are. And so we're getting a good glimpse of both of them, and where they're at and how they're going to need to pull together to try and deal with everything that's happening. One, figuring out who this new Cap is. Eventually, whenever Baron Zemo comes in with his flag
Mm.
group, and just how are these two guys going to deal with these problems, is something that I'm just looking forward to seeing. That's something I'm really, just the way the story's set up. I love how it's going so far.
Yeah. Yeah, no, all great. I think I mentioned a little bit about what I like. I just liked how they went down. You kind of see them digging in the layers of these two characters. And one thing, as you're talking about that, I didn't even realize is that when you mentioned they're not together, and it's called the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. What I didn't realize is that WandaVision was was great in it, but it's leading up to the next Doctor Strange movie. I don't think this show is leading into any movie or anything from to my recollection. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm liking how like you can see how they're trying to flesh out these characters, and who knows if they're gonna. I imagine they're gonna appear in more movies, but in case they don't, there's a lot of great payoff in like you know figuring out his backs, the Winter Soldier, fleshing out his story and how he, deals with, his past, and then yeah, even Sam like dealing with, being the leader. And I'm excited to see how they deal with that dynamic of him being, Captain America, the leader. Because in the comic books, he goes on to like lead the Avengers for a little bit, like, and so I'm interested to see how to what capacity they elevate Sam's character. So yeah, what about dislikes? What are some things you didn't like? Maybe it wasn't to the totally opposite. Maybe some things you thought they could have done better.
Um, I mean, it's kind of hard to say because we've only seen so much, but I think they might have toned down the Winter Soldier a little too much. Just there wasn't really any action with him at all.
Mm,
We, but I think again, it is to really set up an understanding of who he is.
mhm,
But I was kind of looking forward to seeing just the way he operates on his own as well.
mm,
At the same time, maybe he doesn't know how to operate yet, which is his big deal. And I think that's
mm,
probably one of my biggest things. I just want to know how he's going to start to develop his personal character. He doesn't have his best friend anymore. He doesn't really
that's
have
right.
any direction. He's not a soldier anymore, and he's just like there. He just exists in a time that he's not familiar with, and
Mhm,
so he just
yeah,
yeah. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing is that I'm left feeling bad for him. It's probably the one of the biggest things that I just want to see him, you know, get it together and make it happen uh and see where they take him.
yeah, for sure. I think one of my criticisms, and it could be something that they could deal with later. You're right, like it's the first episode. My two things were, I didn't like how, although it's like a good surprise and it subverted your expectations. Sam, not giving back the shield, that was something I was like, oh man, come on. Like in game, he got the shield. You thought he was, he accepted it, and so to see him give it back, I was like, oh, that's kind of weak. So that disappointed me. And then the other part was, and who again, this might be something they explain, but the part of like them being broke, I'm like, I get like theoretically, oh, 5 years he comes back now, but dude saved the world, like these guys should, and not only they it seems like the world, like they knew it too, because when they're walking through the museum, Sam and Rhodey, you can see like the newspaper clippings about them saving the world, um, and things like that. So I'm like, why aren't these guys better, I get like it's more of like a real world, but I would imagine like if you knew someone saved the world, they have way more notoriety, more money, and more resources at least to not be in a situation where you can't get a bank loan, a bank
Right.
loan. So that was my thing, but I get it. It creates story, it creates like a compelling situation, but you have to like suspend your disbelief a little bit, even though it's a movie about superheroes. So that was it. All right, so now this is probably one of my favorite parts, or will be the favorite part of the podcast going forward. Um, Obviously, so WandaVision, people went crazy with like different theories. People thought Mephisto was gonna come, Nightmare, all these different things, and
Right.
and some of them were rightly justified. Others were they're just taking every little thing and speculating. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of do a two part. So we're gonna call this Future Sight, and so this is where it's not a hot take, but you just share based on the first viewing, what do you think is going to happen either in the next episode, or by the end of the series? Nothing too crazy, but what do you suspect from this first episode to happen? And we can look back on this and maybe we're right, maybe we're wrong, but what do you think?
Right. Well, I know I kind of explained my theories a bit now already before, but again, because of the way that this first episode really kicked in, it changed my perspective a lot and just how it's going to trail. And also, now that I know that it's only possibly 6 episodes,
Mm,
that's also changing my mind a bit. But
mm,
it ended showing that they got the new cap, and so I'm guessing they're gonna do this whole introduction with them in the next episode where he goes into the stadium and all that, and they're gonna
mm.
those commercials are gonna pop in. But
Right.
I think also just at some point, i- if there's so many few episodes, they got to put Falcon and Winter Soldier together. I think in the next episode,
Hmm.
they have to connect, and so um, I think finding out who this flag snatchers, right?
Smashers, yeah,
Um,
smashers,
sorry, Smashers. For
yeah.
some reason, I keep
Snatchers.
thinking Smashers. Yeah, I don't know why.
Capture the flag, man.
Right. But the Flag Smashers, I think they're gonna definitely have to dive into more of who they are and what they want.
Mm,
They again obviously are organized. They have to have some great oversight to be able to rob a bank the way they did. And where are they getting this serum from?
mm.
Like how big in the market is it right now? Is it like is it like uh Wakanda, almost said adamantium, but the vibranium,
Mm,
like where people are starting to find out more and more about it, and it's kind of getting out there a bit more and more, or is there a bigger oversight? And this goes into my other theory is that again, like I know I said that there are weren't really super villains. There are a lot of bad guys in the Marvel universe, but again,
hmm
when I mention super villains, I want to put an emphasis on the S. There wasn't really a group of bad guys, right?
Yeah.
The Avengers has clearly been together for a long time, whereas in many theories, people are like, oh, maybe Thunderbolt Ross is going to do his thing with his group, or
Mhm.
um, maybe all the bad guys, the Six is going to happen, and then they're
Right.
going to be a big group in New York, right? But a lot of those have just been theories. Nothing like that has actually happened. Loki was part of Thanos' group, but there was just layers. There wasn't like a group of villains that got together. That was more of a hierarchy. And
hmm
so I'd be curious to see that they actually create a group of super villains, like villains that are getting together, which could lead into, again, the whole Fantastic Four thing, right? And
Mm.
just
Yeah.
bringing in that hierarchy, like with what's his name, um, the villain for the Fantastic Four,
Doctor Doom.
Doctor Doom, right?
Yeah.
And so like he's supposed to create his own country.
Right.
That's a big thing, and there's a lot of theories with that as well.
Ooh.
And so it'd be nice to see that they get somebody, if not Thunderbolt or Doctor Doom, but somebody to kind of start pulling these guys together and start really organizing crime. That there's an organized crime syndicate or something, and just making chaos for all these superheroes. And then over the next couple of years, after these TV shows and after these movies, we finally get a reason again to start pulling all these Avengers together. Like, okay, we
Mm.
got to fight these guys and disperse this whole situation before it gets too crazy.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that
yeah. I didn't even think of that. That's a good point. Because yeah, I mentioned that from my knowledge, this isn't leading to any movies, but it could lead into another series that could debut some of that. That's a good point. I think for me, typically Marvel in most movies, one of the super villains are can be like the government, the U.S. government, right? We saw that in
Mhm.
Captain America, and so
Right.
part of me thinks like, obviously we know that this new Cap is gonna like be crazy and probably part of me feels like they're gonna do like a switcheroo and like we know Zemo. I totally forgot about Zemo as I was watching this, but your my mind can go, oh, Zemo's behind these flag smashers, and part of me thinks like, well, man, maybe their government or some government is behind them actually, and Zemo's playing a whole totally different part. I feel like that's something that could happen because you mentioned you're right, like he didn't like the idea of super soldiers, a group of them, and so if he's behind a group that's super soldiers, it kind of defeats that point. So I'm thinking maybe either it's all part of his plan or there's something else that he's up to. So that's what I thought. I'm like, oh man, I wonder if they're gonna play with that line of thought. Like it could be the U.S. government is trying to like do something crazy with Cap, with this new Cap. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see with the next episode. I'm excited to see Sam and Bucky get together too. So now here's your chance where you can go supernova with your super hot take, like something that totally out of left field. If you want, what would be your super hot take? I have one that I'm interested to see if you agree. But what would be your super hot take? Something that you wouldn't think would happen but could happen. Kind of the Mephisto theory.
Dang. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like at the end of WandaVision, I wasn't expecting her to go like full in. Like we kind of knew that she was probably going to lose her mind, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
think that she was be uh, a full on witch where she's like now studying this stuff out. I thought she was
Mm.
gonna have to connect with Doctor Strange and all that, but she's diving deeper into her insanity, so to
Mm.
speak. And so that was crazy. And I think with this, again, you had mentioned before that it's hard to tell how this is going to play out because we don't know what to expect after
Hmm.
either, which is putting it quite in the dark. But
Yeah.
um, I think the craziest thing, somebody's putting out the super soldier serum. Somebody is, right. If the government has it, if these um, this group has it, then somehow it's getting out there. I think someone's going to organize the crime. Somebody is that, and I think it's going to eventually lead into an Avengers movie. If not, maybe even the craziest thing would be to see them doing something like the Defenders, where all the you
Yeah.
know the the low level Marvel heroes get together for the
Mm.
first time for one big TV episode, and then maybe we see like Falcon, Winter Soldier, and then also we get Rhodey in there, and
Yeah.
then for whatever reason Scarlet Witch shows up. Maybe they pull in Daredevil, right? Daredevil's been teased quite a bit now. Marvel has the
Right.
rights to use him however they want. And they've kind of teased that they do want to use the same character from the Netflix show, as well as
Oh, nice.
the Punisher from the Netflix show. They've mentioned that they are looking into it. They've loved what they did, and so I think that would probably be a really out of left field thing to pull in some of these characters that we weren't expecting. Because again, they've only showed so much in the commercials, and we've already seen a lot of what they shared in the first episode, which means these next, they've got hours of stuff that we just have no idea what's going on yet.
That's right, man. Yeah, that's a good point. I like the thought. I'd love to see Daredevil and the Defenders in there. I miss those shows. My check this out. This is my crazy hot take. Um, I think that old man Cap can come back and be changed
Mm.
back into normal Captain America. You know, they have that part where the guy was asking him about, is Captain America on the moon or something, like where is he at?
Right.
So like the old Cap is still around, like theoretically walk around
Right.
somewhere. My wild take is that because I know Chris Evans isn't playing him anymore. Supposedly he's not playing him. There's rumors that he could possibly sign back on for another movie. My theory is that he comes back and like they use him uh, and get like the original Captain America back, and that leads into something. But that'll be my wild theory. Like old man Cap, they bring him back somehow, and he comes
Mm.
back and maybe fights this fake Captain America that they have running around. Um, awesome. We'll see. So we'll see what happens with these the regular and wild takes. So we're going to end on this note. What's something that doesn't have to necessarily do with Marvel or the show? What's something that you're kind of geeking out about that will fall into that a category of geeking out? Something that you want to shout out?
I mean, I think also to kind of explain before, I had mentioned that Thor is my favorite character,
Mm,
and the I love all of the other characters, but and I do love what they're doing with the whole Scarlet Witch thing. She's losing her mind, but I have to say I don't think anybody has gone through more than Thor throughout
mm,
the movies. Nobody. And when you think about who he is, right? He mentioned he was 1,500 years old.
mm,
The time up to leading up to the whole situation with Thanos was only 15 years, roughly.
mm.
Yeah, and so when you look at that, in like 1% of his life, he lost everything, right?
Dang,
I mean,
that's a good point.
he lost his dad, he
Mm,
lost his mom, he lost his brother like 3 times.
dang, that's true.
you know, he lost his hammer, he lost his best friends,
Lost
he
his
lost his
eye.
planet, right? He lost his eye. He like loses everything. Literally, it was his fault that half the universe disappeared. I mean,
Dang.
this guy lost he lost his people twice. Half, he lost half his people when his home planet got destroyed, and then he lost half his people when Thanos attacked, and then he lost another half when Thanos finally snapped his finger. I mean,
Dang.
you could imagine that, all that weight. I wasn't surprised to see that he started drinking. I mean, for a guy like him who had so much for so long and then to all of a sudden just lose it, and such for him would have been a really really short time. I'm surprised that was all he did was just go to drinking.
Mm,
Some people were upset, like, oh, he's making fun of alcoholics. Like, no, that's what a normal person would have did. Like, in fact,
hmm.
he actually held it together pretty well,
Right.
considering, you know, everything that happened. And so, the fact that he's still around and still going, that's why he's my favorite character. I mean, I don't think I could imagine anybody losing as much as he did, and then, you know, and still going.
Mm,
And so I just want to throw it out there, for anyone listening, that's why Thor is my favorite character. He really is. I mean, I don't know if I won't say he's the strongest Avenger, but he's definitely one of the strongest, right? That
mm.
I think there's always going to be a fight between Hulk and him, but
Yeah. Dang. Same
yeah,
time, I've never heard it put like that before. You're absolutely right, man. Like all that stuff happened, and for him in a relatively quick span of time, man. That's intense. Snap, man. I won't even. I won't go that deep for my my geek out. I just watched with my wife. We just watched the Justice League Snyder cut. Um,
mm,
I didn't want to, but I paid the price. 4 hours long. But I liked it. I thought it was really good. Someone brought up, and the reason why I'm sharing this for the geek out portion is because it should be like whether you like DC or Justice League or whatever, Jack Snyder, like you should be rooting for this movie because someone brought up a great point. Like with COVID's changed like so much, like how and even now how we watch movies. So they're saying like all these people banded together to get this Snyder cut released, and he, the studio gave him
mm,
$80 million to finish it. So they're saying like these streaming services, now that there's so many different ones, you got Paramount has one, all these folks have these streaming services that
right,
we're now going to be able to see potentially like a theatrical cut in the theaters and then a director's cut on a streaming service, so that appeals to the masses in the theaters and then to the people that want like more fleshed out at home. And so now directors are going to be able to tell their version of the stories. We're going to be able to see like better fleshed out stories. Even like shows like WandaVision being so successful, like we will be able to get these shows that are able to flesh out these stories, where these theatrical movies, they get cut down so much by the studios and all these things that what you get oftentimes isn't what is intended. So I'm excited to
right,
see more stuff like this come out. It's cool, you get to see more. Like I grew up on comic books, so seeing more comic book intellectual property and content in these shows is awesome because you can connect with it more. So that's what I'm geeking out about now, just the potential of like more of these shows and to come out. I know Marvel's kind of killing it. They got all these shows coming out, but I'm looking forward to even DC. They have the opportunity now to hopefully come out with some shows that can help them elevate their characters more, and not have to rely just on Batman and Superman, because they do
right.
have more other characters. So we'll see what happens. But watch the Snyder cut. It was pretty good. Not pretty. It was solid. Like it is definitely. I'm not gonna watch it again. It's 4 hours, but it was good enough to
Right.
like you can tell there's a lot that he cut out of the movie, either by choice or I know he couldn't finish it because of stuff happening in the studio, cut stuff out. But there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, man, he like, and it's not even like fluff. Like how you like edit, you've edited videos, right? You got to cut out like the fat
Right.
and stuff, but a lot of this stuff isn't like stuff that
It,
would be cut anyway. It was like stuff that wow, like they should have kept it all
it
in.
added a lot of depth.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it added a lot of depth. I did see it too, and so I
Mm.
think you're right. I do love the idea of streaming services. I am a fan of going to the movies.
Oh yeah,
I love
same.
going to the movies. Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't think they should ever. I hope these streaming services don't take over to a point where they think people don't want to go to the movies. That's gonna be
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just like you said, Daredevil, Punisher, when those TV shows were amazing.
Mm.
I wouldn't be so attached to the character if it were not for the TV shows.
Same.
And I think with the way they're approaching Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision, we're pulling away from the big three, which was, Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. And
Mhm.
we're able to start diving in to these lower characters. And then what I loved about Marvel is that they did a good job of making all these movies for all these big characters, Ant-Man, Black Panther, and then pulling them all together. And when you see them interact or fight or flesh out a cause, you can feel for them because you understand where they're coming from. You know their story,
Mhm.
and it helps a lot. And that's something I was hoping DC could really pick up on, is not just stick to this one big story, but really take a step back. Like what they did with Wonder Woman with her first movie was perfect.
Yeah. Mhm.
They really dove into who she is, where she came from, what she believes, and why she is the way she is. And when you see her pop into another movie, you're like, I know her. I get it. I want her to win,
Mhm.
right? And so, these TV shows, I think they're gonna do a great job of just giving us that opportunity to just dive into who these characters are, and then when we see them on the big screen, say, you know what, I wanna see this guy win. I understand why he's struggling, and I hope that he gets it. And so,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. Well, that wraps up the first episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier recap show. Anthony, bro, thank you so much for stopping by and chatting. And we're going to recap um, uh, myself and a guest. We're going to recap every week until the series is over and maybe do like a series wrap. But I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to chat with you. If you're listening, share what your crazy theories are. What's your hot take? What do you think is going to happen in the future episodes? Or maybe there's something we missed, some insight. Please share, and we'll see you again next week as we wrap up and continue to recap the series. Awesome. Thank you, Anthony, for joining me, man. Appreciate it. Clutch.
oh yeah, awesome. Thank you for letting me jump in. I appreciate it.
For sure. For sure.